Thanks for tuning in to LiveWire. Sit down. You're going to have an interesting show today because we're going to be talking about gun violence, and we're going to talk about issues in gun violence, especially with policemen. There's an organization called Voices of Truth. It was founded by Marissa Barrera, whose brother was shot by the police. I guess he was just standing there and took a bullet. At any rate, she'll talk about that because it's an issue that if you look at the governor's news and all of the anti-violent, anti-gun, for campus safety, those kinds of things are there. But to talk more about policemen is something that we're going to be talking about. So stay tuned for LiveWire right after this. Voices of Truth is a human rights organization that deals with issues about police and people in charge of police departments and hiring issues with police. And we're going to be talking about violence that has happened in our state and maybe across the United States. And with me in the studio is Marissa Barrera, who I said earlier her brother was killed by a police bullet.
Yeah, thank you for having me. My name is Marissa Barrera, and the organization's name is actually Voices of Strength.
Voices of Strength. Did I say that? What did I say?
Truth, but we are telling the truth.
Oh, Voices of Truth. Strength. When it says Voices of Truth, I'm like,
okay.
Okay.
No. Yeah, and I did lose my brother to police. He was not shot. He was ultimately asphyxiated to death by police, similar to the George Floyd killing.
Oh, yes.
Lasted moments long with the same pleas as I can't breathe, and
I see.
Similar situation.
Okay. All right. Well, you brought a video. Maybe we can start with that, and that'll help us, and then we'll go to some still photographs and talk about that.
Okay.
Okay? All right. This is just to give you an idea about our conversation. Here we go. That's pretty heavy, Marissa. The statistics that were on there, could you repeat them?
Yes, the statistics on there, what we had wrote on there is it's over 30,000 people have been killed either directly by police or during a police interaction since the year 2000. And the source on that is www. You can find it at fatalencounters.org. And that's a database that has been intensively tracking these statistics. Mm-hmm. There are some different databases out there. However, some of them don't capture a lot of the killings. Some of them only cover shootings by police. Mm-hmm. We also have issues with, and specifically in Sacramento, these past 2 months, there are a lot of police that are crashing and killing people through a vehicle car accident. But like I mentioned in Sacramento, there have been, it was 4 people in the last 3 months that were killed by law enforcement, Sacramento sheriffs.
In California?
Just here in Sacramento.
I see.
Yes. And where the police are said to be at fault.
So is there, when something like that happens, is there a kind of review of the situation? And if the situation looks like malefaction on the police side, doesn't there laws that carry that forward to the police's review or firing or going to jail? Some of them go to jail. Isn't that correct?
In theory, we would hope that is correct. It's very rare that it actually happens that way. What happens when our loved ones are killed by police? Usually it's their sister department. So, for example, my brother was killed by Woodland Police and the Yolo County Sheriffs, who they go to calls together. They're in the same town. They are the ones who investigated. And as they tell every family, including mine, that they will do a thorough investigation and to see if there was any negligence or any criminal behavior involved. And if so, that they will charge, the officers will be charged or just something. And they're often just cleared and then also cleared by the district attorney. We get very unbiased investigations. And even if there's evidence, even with videos, many times it's just ignored and they'll get cleared.
I see. So, and there is no oversight committee on the higher government.
Correct. Some families get their cases looked at by the Department of Justice. Mm-hmm. I know families that have, but essentially the investigation turns out the same. It's pretty rare to get criminal charges. We will see them happening with some of the more high-profile cases that mm-hmm. get national or global support.
Yes.
And then we might see an officer charged, or the family might receive a federal lawsuit, settlement, or whatnot. And it seems when it's a high-profile, it happens super quick. They get speedy trials, and then we have families like mine who have waited. It will be 6 years in February since my brother was killed, and the officers were cleared. However, we are still in our federal lawsuit, and we will stand trial in Sacramento sometime in the next few months. Mm-hmm. And it's been pushed back. So when we see a high-profile case like that, and they get speedy trials, and then there are a lot of other families who are waiting. But right now, a lot of families that I know personally are winning $1 million settlements. Mm-hmm. I know families up to $13 million.
This is your brother?
This is my brother, yes.
And what he's doing, I'm not sure. He's talking to. Oh, here we go. Here's the story. And these are other. You can help me.
Yeah. So the first one is something that we do. We do digital media to help families tell their story. Mm-hmm. This flyer right here. This is an episode we have done. I personally was a host for the interviews with almost 40 families, and this is from all over the country to share their loved ones' stories. And I have families that were less. They were not high-profile families. They're families who have not gotten much attention or support. That female is Melly Corrado, though, and she was working at Trader Joe's as a manager when she was shot by police. And yeah, so I try to share these stories so people can see that it really can happen to anybody. If it can happen to a young woman at work, yes, it can happen to anybody, and people need to be aware. That family, even though she was not the suspect, they have not gotten justice. They have gotten pushed back, even when the police were clearly wrong.
So there are two issues that we've touched upon. One is justice to events that have happened, and then we touched upon the possibility of oversight in hiring police, so that I understand from somebody who I talked about before the show that some police are fired, and then they're rehired by the police station down the street.
Yes.
That does happen?
Yes, it absolutely happens. Again, it's rare when they are fired. Sometimes they resign instead of getting fired and then easily also go to another spot. But definitely killer cops are known to do that if they are fired.
And Voices of Strength is it's a service organization that you can belong to.
Yes, we have families. All the families we've done interview with, we have different groups, virtual groups. Because what I seen we had a need for was families to stay connected and share their stories and kind of be heard. And a lot of these families, when I've connected with them over the years, have told us I'm the first person who ever talked to them about their loved one or asked about them. These are mothers and their children were killed by the police, and some of them had the video and had the evidence. They just need a little support and guidance to find lawyers to submit FOIAs and get the documents because they're often hidden and held back from us. We have to fight for just to get truth about what happened to our loved ones. So families need support, and we're able to do that with empathy and just able to give them the direction.
I see. I think that's that's like a third or fourth thing that we've brought up, which are not solutions to hiring a bad cop or a cop who's made a mistake, misinformation in his head.
Yeah.
When they said when cops are chasing someone and they're in a group, their adrenaline is going crazy, and their mind might be, if it's is a prone to fear in that position, in that situation, use the gun. So there's all of these studies that probably have been done. I have no idea about that, but except to say that this seems to be like a real social issue that hasn't been really addressed properly.
Correct.
In a long time, at all, maybe.
Yeah, and when I realized how many families are impacted, when my brother was killed, I started, that's who came to support my family and who reached out to me providing support, because I've been very vocal about what happened to my brother and what the police were doing to my family after. So, a lot of those families are the ones that came and provided me with knowledge and support and education on how to go about this. I realized it's not about, every race is being killed, different age groups. It's mainly men, and it's a lot of young men. But there are mothers that have been killed by their children. There are grandmothers, grandfathers. These are some of the stories I've covered too myself, where their family reaches out to me because nobody has shared their loved one's story. So I think people hear about a killing by police and they automatically, what did that suspect do? Why did they get killed? And people want to say that not all cops are bad, but there are a lot of killer cops out there getting paid, and there are a lot of them out there that are just abusing people every day. So part of what we do is trying to just set the narrative straight and what's happening to our families behind the scenes too, because that's a whole different story of corruption and cover-ups as well.
So if people are interested, they can get on your website, but if they really want to talk to you, there's our contact information on that website?
That's correct. Voicesofstrength.info. We have a contact form on there for impacted families and anybody who would like to support or just even check out our episodes and see some of the work we're doing. We also have a page on our website where we've begun a database with the faces and the names and stories of the cops who have killed, because that are loved ones, and that's something that's hidden from the community a lot. So we felt that was important to put out there for families as well and for just the public to know. So those are things available.
Good. So we can contact you if we have that issue going on, and we're going to take a short break in about 30 seconds, and we'll come back. And when we do so, we're going to come back and see some more information about how your organization, Voices of Strength, can help change the world. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're going to take a short pause for cause, and there's some important information here that will come your way, and then we'll be back talking with Melissa Barrera.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Do you want to meet a family with a transgender kid? Here we are. Max loves to do backflips. Max loves to play his ukulele. Max loves to just be a kid and just be himself. When I found out I was pregnant, all I really wanted was a happy, healthy, whole child. And that's what I got. I think it's really important for people to know that trans kids don't have a political agenda. They are just kids. Like any parent, we love our kids unconditionally, and we will never stop fighting for them. Stand with us. Protect our families.
For those dealing with the daily struggles of caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community with experts and other caregivers to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love.
If you just tuned in, it's called Voices of Strength. It's an organization that deals with police violence. And Marissa Barrera is the founder of it, and she's experienced it in her family, and we talked earlier. And we're talking about how the government structure is supposed to create a system whereby people are cared for by the police departments, by county police, freeway police, and things are not as rosy as one might think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me about how your service organization can possibly help change within the people you serve, because they've already suffered, correct? Their members have already suffered. How you can deal with their issues, and then how, in the overall sense, I know it's an essay question.
No, it's good.
Okay.
It's good because I think about these things a lot. And so for me, it was one, giving, like, we are stronger in numbers. And with the families all separated, when we listen to the stories, they're all the same. They all consist of a false narrative, a cover up. It's really crazy, like movie type stuff. So people around us, we're not normal anymore after this, it feels, because people around us, you know, they hear us talking about what we've been through, and you know, it's not comfortable, it's uncomfortable. And so it gives families a place to share their stories and to uplift them in their fight for justice, and also in trying to heal from this. Part of some families approach things differently. Some, you know, want to numb it out or just leave it alone. But some families, they find strength in fighting back and speaking out and sharing their loved ones' stories. So I've been contacted by families and even sisters that their brothers were killed 20 years ago, 15 years ago.
Okay.
And they're like,
They've been
wow.
carrying that with them all these years, and now
Yes.
they see a path towards having some social change.
Yes, yes. And a lot of people were woken up to police brutality with seeing the George Floyd killing. And some of these families, that woke them up too, but they might not have nowhere to reach out to. So that's something, that voice of strength. We met a lot of these people just through our social media and consistently putting our truth out there and
Yes.
asking victims to reach out to us or families.
Good. And at some time in the future, good things will occur to change our society. For the
Yeah,
better.
and the bigger picture also is, I just know that a lot of our families are going through our federal trials, and our loved ones, their names and their stories are going into case law, and it's opening the path for more families to win their trials. And it's sad how many there are out there, but unfortunately, the more there are, the more people that are going to fight back and speak against this. So I just see a bigger picture is that our families together challenge the government in some way on a higher level eventually.
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, and that's how change is made in government. By the way, I mean, certainly the awareness of legislators has shown about the issue of gun safety, and in the hands of the population, but gun safety in the hands of the people who are supposed to protect us is another issue too.
Yes, absolutely. And they use, I feel they use the issue of gun safety to further militarize the police. And actually, Sacramento County sheriffs were pushing to further militarize their department. And then I believe it was a following day after one of those big board meetings, board of supervisors meetings, and they killed a man on a mental health crisis the next day. Like, they shot him within seconds, and they knew it was a mental health call. So it was kind of ironic that
I remember this, yes, yeah, and it occurred to me. I thought back to when a certain government official, who I don't know if his name remain anonymous, but at any rate, they closed 6 major mental health centers in California as a kind of a cutback. Well, where did all those people go who have mental health issues? They went out in the street.
that's another issue I wanted to speak about, is that a lot of the people, there are a lot of calls that the folks that are being killed, it's during a mental health crisis, a wellness check, and a lot of these people are being killed right in front of their family being the one who called the police for help. And it's just awful to see that it's one of our most vulnerable groups of people, and we can't call the police for help like that. It's, someone said to me before, it's like playing Russian roulette, and it's taking a chance, because anything.
I've heard this before too. We don't want them in our neighborhood because they're dangerous. So why don't we look at some slides here, and you can talk about them.
Okay.
Here we go.
So this is an action we held, a press release from my brother a couple years ago. I was pregnant right there. That's my family. And we're just standing together on that day. We made some announcements on our federal trial. This was actually just this October at the Capitol. We called for an action just to have impacted family members come out. We had different families from California, some from out of state, to stand with us together. It's a national day of action against police brutality. So some were brand new families. Some had never been to an event like this before. And it was a good gathering. We did something after. And that's just, this was something we held for Voice of Strength. We invited families out. This was in Oakland, and we gathered with other families. Those are all impacted families in the background.
I see.
That was for a magazine that we were featured in.
What do legislators? There's 2 questions, and I think we're running towards the end of it here. Oh, yes. So, what do you think the action of your organization wants to do? What will it go for in the long run?
Well, we would want real change. We want federal like oversight, not just a lot of families in different counties and cities are fighting for oversight, a different board, a community based to oversee the police, but it's like everybody's fighting the same little fight and we're not winning. So I feel like these legislative changes need to be on a federal level, and the cops, it needs to be looked at in a higher degree than what it is right now. I honestly think it is government corruption, and they're aware of this. They have a license to kill our loved ones, and nothing is happening after they do it, even in plain sight. Yes.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for coming to talk to me about this. I think it's an important issue, and we will watch it carefully throughout our days, and hopefully, as a people, we can come together and make changes. And your organization is a step in the right direction, don't you think?
Yeah, I absolutely do. And, I know I don't have all the answers. I know this is big, something I really, it's quick. It's bigger than just what happened to me and my family.
Yes.
But, I know change starts with awareness and bringing the people together. And we're just meeting so many more survivors who have been shot in the back and then put in prison for a few years. People like that, people that have different stories. So just bringing people together that have been impacted.
Marissa Barrera, thanks for coming to talk to me about this.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that's it for today. And if you're interested in more about learning more about this, you can just get on www.voicesofstrength.info. See you next week on LiveWire.
Thank you.